The story begins in the imperial capital of Ares. The atmosphere in the city center is bustling, with people busy with their own affairs, while children play joyfully. "Don't we seem so peaceful?" one of the imperial soldiers asked his comrade. "Peaceful? We never know when the revolutionaries will act again." His comrade replied in disagreement. "They are just ordinary villagers, not worthy of being called revolutionaries." The soldier retorted, greeted with laughter by his comrade. The conversation between the two imperial soldiers about the rebellion carried out by some groups of villagers continued as they walked around checking the city's security. Currently, the empire could breathe a sigh of relief because the rebellion could be handled by the knights, preventing it from escalating further. They hoped that the peace in the Ares Empire could continue like it is now. And the day turned into night. In one of the rooms inside the palace, several knights were discussing something. "We will eliminate the emperor and overthrow the empire. This is the only way to revive the kingdom." One of the knights spoke. He seemed to be the senior among them. Hearing the words of the senior knight, the other knights remained silent. Some looked down, listening to the senior's plan to overthrow the emperor. "Your role is the most important." The senior knight spoke to one of the knights named Logan McLean, who had red hair. "Whatever happens, you must guard the secret archives." The senior continued his words to Logan. Logan McLean only nodded, indicating that he understood the task at hand. And a while later, the conversation among the knights came to an end. They were seen leaving the room. A young knight approached Logan and said, "You are truly patriotic." Logan didn't understand what his young knight friend was saying. The young knight explained that guarding the secret archives was a heavy task. Many people had been sacrificed to obtain and safeguard the secret archives of the empire. By possessing the book, you will become the #1 target of the imperial military. You have taken a risk by taking on the task of guarding the book. Hearing his friend's words, Logan smiled slightly and said, "You think as if I willingly want to guard the book?" His friend then convincingly stated that Logan had a patriotic attitude because he was willing to guard the book without complaining. Logan seemed unwilling to continue the conversation with his friend. He didn't want to offend the other knights by being praised by his friend. Logan left his friend and quickly walked to his room. He said to himself, the task he received to guard the secret archives did not stem from patriotism, but revenge. Back then, Logan was worthless. He always lost in training fights against his younger brother, young Master Ronnie, and even though his brother had only trained with a sword for 3 years, while Logan had been training for 10 years. He felt he was the dumbest eldest child among his siblings. People predicted a bleak future for the McLean family because the eldest son of the family lacked fighting skills. One day, Logan's father was very angry with him. He was angry because Logan had poisoned his own brother with paralysis poison. As a result, his brother suffered paralysis for several days. His actions, of course, invited his father's wrath, leading to him being expelled from the family. He was no longer considered a son of the McLean family. Since being expelled from home, Logan became a mercenary. After 10 years of hard work, he realized that he had been a very bad person all this time. But it was too late. One rainy day in the capital, there was a loud news about the execution of a prisoner. The prisoner's execution was to take place in the city square, and the prisoner to be executed was Ronnie and McLean. According to circulating rumors, he was an aura user who fought against the Empire on the front lines. Logan ran to where his brother's execution was to convey something. He hoped there was still time to talk to his brother. But his hope was in vain. His brother had died at the hands of the royal executioner. Carrying Ronnie and McLean's head, the executioner said loudly, "This is the consequence for someone who dares to oppose the Empire." And the people cheered without caring about Logan's broken heart witnessing his brother's execution. Since that day, he vowed to avenge the empire that had killed his family. He cursed the empire that robbed him of the time to apologize to his brother. A few days later, inside the imperial palace, shouts of the soldiers chasing Logan McLean could be heard. They were trying to capture Logan, who had taken the secret archives. Logan ran with all his might to evade the pursuing soldiers, but his steps stopped in front of a door. He couldn't continue his escape because the door was locked. The soldiers managed to find him and began to attack. The battle between Logan and the soldiers trying to capture him was unavoidable. They clashed swords, trying to defeat each other. One soldier was successfully slashed by Logan with his sword. This prompted the other soldiers to advance and attack Logan from various sides. The sounds of shouts and the clashing of swords filled the room. Although Logan managed to defeat several Imperial soldiers, it seemed like their numbers never ended. Even now, he was surrounded by dozens of soldiers ready to finish him off. Logan looked somewhat desperate seeing the number of soldiers he had to face. He thought maybe today was his day to die. He smiled and looked at the soldiers in front of him. With a sardonic smile, he said loudly, "You leave me no choice." Logan took a round object from his pocket and held it tightly. With anger, Logan said loudly, "Let's all die together." And at that moment, there was a loud explosion accompanied by a bright white light in the room. The soldiers were shocked to see what happened, but they were too late to dodge, eventually being destroyed by the huge explosion along with Logan McClane. In his death, Logan was filled with anger and regret. He deeply regretted not being able to apologize to his brother and family before his demise. This regret stayed with him until his last moments, and he hoped to meet his family in the afterlife to convey the apologies he had kept within. Suddenly, Logan woke up feeling a throbbing pain in his head. However, he was puzzled. Why could he feel pain? Haven't I already died? Logan wondered. "Young master, are you all right?" A servant approached him. Logan still didn't understand what was happening. He looked at the chief servant named Rick with bewilderment. Meanwhile, Rick, the chief servant, bowed and inquired about his master's condition. "Didn't you die 30 years ago? How are you still alive now?" Suddenly, young Master Logan asked Rick a question that shocked the servant. Rick suspected that young Master Logan was suffering from a severe illness and instructed another servant to summon the physician. Logan paid no attention to the shocked Rick and looked out the window. Outside his room, he saw several people practicing fighting. He noticed the McClane family emblem everywhere. Logan wondered if he was dreaming. Suddenly, he was startled by a young man entering his room. "Brother, are you okay?" Logan heard the young man speaking to him. He was very familiar with that voice. It was the voice of Ronian McClane, Logan's brother. Ronian approached him with a worried look. Slowly, Logan began to recall this scene. This was the moment when he first fought with Ronian and was defeated by his brother. When his brother came to visit him, he drove him away, telling Ronian not to see him. He didn't like Ronian, who was only a son of a concubine. At that time, although Ronian often received harsh words and insults from Logan, he still followed wherever Logan went. However, after that day, Ronian no longer came to see him. Logan held his head. He still didn't fully understand what was happening. A servant approached Ronian and said that young Master Ronian should let Logan rest. But Logan allowed Ronian to come closer to his bedside. He called Ronian to come closer. Ronian walked towards Logan, who seemed pleased to be visited by him. Meanwhile, the servant returned, feeling puzzled by Logan's sudden change in attitude. Ronian apologized, saying he should have been more careful. Logan smiled and said he was fine. His brother did nothing wrong to him. He should be the one apologizing to his brother. Logan couldn't continue his words and bowed his head. Ronian looked worried seeing his brother's condition. He asked if his brother was okay. Apparently, Logan remembered the events from his past life. He was the one who caused Ronian's death. He had ordered Ronian to fight on the front lines. Logan grabbed Ronian's shoulder and apologized. He apologized and deeply regretted his actions towards his brother, shedding tears. Ronian didn't understand his brother's sudden apology and tears, but he allowed his brother to cry in his embrace, even though he didn't know what was happening. Eventually, a few moments later, Ronian bid farewell and promised to visit him again. Logan smiled as he watched his brother leave. Logan tried to understand his current situation. He said to himself, if this wasn't a dream and he had truly returned to the past, then he had to change everything. Suddenly, Logan was startled by a woman's voice. The woman apologized to him while bowing. Logan didn't understand why the woman was apologizing to him. Rick, the chief servant, approached the woman named Mary. She apologized for disturbing young Master Logan's rest. Logan remembered how he used to mistreat the servants. Logan said he was fine and told Rick to fetch a pen and paper. Rick didn't understand the young master's request. He asked what young Master Logan would do with Mary. Logan simply replied that Rick should quickly get what he asked for and escort Mary out. The servant quickly fetched paper and a pen and placed them on Logan's table. Logan thanked him and instructed Rick to ensure that no one entered his room. Upon hearing the thank you from young Master Logan, Rick looked surprised because he had never heard such words come from young Master Logan before. He asked if young Master Logan was okay. With a hint of annoyance, Logan said he was fine and told Rick to leave. Rick excused himself and left Logan's room. Meanwhile, Logan still appeared annoyed by the behavior of his servants, who were surprised by his change in attitude. But he realized that this was the consequence he had to accept. Right now, he had to focus on recording everything that would happen in the future. He noted the war that would occur 10 years from now and a disaster that would destroy his family and his country. And he had to prevent it from happening. But before that, there would be a war between regions 1 year from now. The war would happen suddenly and devastate some of his family, plunging them into a dark time. He thought that he had to prevent that from happening first. Logan thought he wanted to meet his father. Logan then hurried to his father's room to meet him. The servants who saw young Master Logan walking out of his room looked nervous while saluting. Logan noticed the behavior of the servants, seemingly fearful of him. One of the serving women, carrying a stack of cloth in her hands, appeared nervous upon seeing young Master Logan, causing her to drop the stack of cloth. Logan looked in her direction. Meanwhile, the serving woman seemed afraid of facing the wrath of young Master Logan. However, unexpectedly, Logan extended his hand to the serving woman who had fallen in front of him to help her stand up. With a happy face, the serving woman attempted to hold young Master Logan's hand while thanking him. Her eyes seemed unblinking as she looked at young Master Logan, who was staring at her. Logan smiled while looking at the serving woman. However, suddenly the woman knelt down and apologized for making a mistake while working. Logan, seeing the serving woman's attitude, was surprised. He realized that his sudden friendly demeanor must have shocked the servants. He should have shown a change in attitude gradually. Not long after, Logan arrived in front of his father's room. The family servant accompanying him requested permission from the patriarch that the first young master wanted to meet him. Logan remembered his father in the past when he drove him out and refused to acknowledge him as his son. Because of that, he had hated his father for years. Logan thought his father was a cold-hearted person who refused to visit him when he was injured after sparring with Ron. However, now he realized how foolish he had been to hate his own father. He didn't know how much it hurt a father to drive away his own child. Logan entered his father's room. He greeted his father and saluted. His father, Baron McLean, turned around from the window and greeted him. With a tearful face, Logan apologized to his father. Baron McLean, not understanding why his son suddenly apologized to him, showed his usual cold demeanor. Logan said that he wanted to meet his father to ask for permission to go for isolated training on the family's land. Isolated training? His father didn't understand what Logan meant. Logan thought he needed to strengthen the territory's forces and develop weapons and some other strategies. However, to achieve all that, he needed money. And the McLean family was known as a beggar family that always hoped for cooperation with other families. There was only one way for him to gather a large sum of money at once. He remembered that in 3 months there would be an incident that could potentially generate income equivalent to 1 year's income for the family. That's why he thought of building his martial arts skills. Baron McLean, not understanding why Logan suddenly asked for permission to do isolated training, suddenly asked, "Are you planning to run away after losing to your brother in a fight?" Logan replied that he had no intention of doing so. He realized that his martial arts skills had been very lacking all this time. So even though it was late, he wanted to improve it. His father felt that Logan's shortcomings were simply because he didn't want to try and lacked self-awareness. Logan had already guessed that his father would not easily believe in him. Logan said that he had realized his bad attitude all this time. But Baron McLean seemed tired of hearing Logan's promises of change repeatedly and told Logan to leave his room. Logan realized that he had never been willing to admit his shortcomings and instead unleashed his anger on others. He felt very foolish and childish. That's why he hoped to change his attitude through isolated training. He asked his father for permission. His father seemed silent and thoughtful while Logan waited for his permission. "How long do you plan to train?" his father asked Logan. "Maybe about 3 months," Logan replied. His father then asked, "Do you think you can catch up to Ronian's skill in such a short time?" But Logan replied that his goal for training was not to defeat Ronian. He just wanted to strive to become better. Finally, his father understood and gave Logan permission. He felt a change in Logan's attitude. Logan felt happy that his father approved his plan and wanted to leave his father's room. Before leaving, his father advised him to be careful and to take care of his health because the weather was still cold. Logan smiled and asked for permission to leave his father's room. A few days later, Logan arrived at the McLean family's land. Only the McLean family members were allowed in this area, so it was unlikely that anyone else would be there. Moreover, the McLean family's land, which was a forest, was quite extensive, making it suitable for training. Besides, he didn't want anyone to see the training methods he would employ. Logan took out a book from his bag. He held the book, which turned out to be the Divine Sword's secret book. In his previous life, Logan had memorized and burned the secret book so that the Empire couldn't get hold of it. The original book, embroidered in gold, held secrets passed down by the hero from ancient times who had successfully slain the evil dragon ruling the world. Logan had copied the secret book using the Independent Army's secret code so that no one could read it. If this secret book was true, then once Logan fully mastered it, Imperial Aura Masters or even Archmages would no longer be daunting figures to him. Before his regression, he was already late in age and not particularly intelligent. But now, he had a chance. Logan began training with guidance from the secret book. He modified his own body with life force called Force. That was the basis of the Divine Sword's secret. Next, he would focus this force into his heart and create a core. This method was a difficult process for someone with ordinary abilities. If he had his previous abilities, he would have surely collapsed. However, the current him was different. After regression, Logan's force seemed to have evolved into all aspects of his body. With his current abilities, Logan was confident he could master the power of the secret book quickly. Suddenly, Logan was surprised. He didn't expect to have successfully created a core so quickly. While the core was being created, he felt an extremely dense energy exploding. He felt as if his body was submerged in a sea of energy. Logan smiled, feeling the achievement of this rapid progress. If what the book taught was true, then his body and senses would drastically change. His body would adapt so he could wield a sword properly. With such rapid progress, Logan imagined that after 3 months, he would become even stronger. And with determination, Logan began training even more diligently. 4 days on end, he trained his body and strength relentlessly for 3 months to acquire good martial arts skills. Until finally, without realizing it, Logan had reached the last day of training in the McLean family forest. Among the 10 sword techniques recorded in the secret book, there was the time-space/sword technique that pierced space and time. Currently, Logan had 1-star core, and he had successfully applied it to the sword technique he was learning. He began to try out several sword techniques he had mastered. He tried the slashing wave sword technique to produce powerful waves of sword attacks. Besides, he also mastered the rippling divide technique, a sword technique to divide the target. Logan laughed joyfully because he had successfully mastered some powers beyond his imagination. These powers were only possessed by someone at an advanced level. Logan felt that he had achieved his training goal. He would proudly report to his father. He immediately returned to his father's residence. However, upon arriving at his father's residence, Logan was not allowed to meet his father. The McLean family guards asked Logan to leave his father's residence. Logan didn't understand why he was forbidden to meet his father. But according to the guard, anyone who wanted to meet the patriarch had to make a notification beforehand, even if they were his own child. The servant tried to remind him of the rule that had been in place for hundreds of years. Logan reasoned that 3 months ago, he could meet his father without prior notification. But the guard replied that maybe the guards on duty at that time didn't follow the procedure correctly. Logan felt something was amiss because such a thing had never happened in his previous life. Suddenly, Logan's ears heard someone talking about him. It turned out his force had enhanced his hearing. He heard clearly that the guards were talking disparagingly about him because he was defeated by his own brother. They suspected that he ran away out of shame after losing to Ronnie and considered him a joke. The guards suggested that Logan return after informing the guards of his purpose first, but Logan thought it was too bothersome. Yet, he intended to show his training success to change his reputation in his father's eyes. "What is your name, sir?" Logan suddenly asked the guard while trying to take something out from his pocket. The guard answered, "I am Dominan." Logan then said to Dominan, "You have stopped me from meeting my father using outdated family rules. You have also dared to insult me." The guard, hearing Logan's words, didn't understand why young Master Logan suddenly acted so authoritarian. Logan continued his statement, challenging the guard to a duel while throwing his glove. The other guards who heard Logan's challenging words were shocked, not expecting young Master Logan to dare challenge a family guard. Logan chuckled and asked Dominan, "Why are you silent, Dominan? Are you afraid?" The servant who came with him looked nervous witnessing the scene unfolding in front of him. Meanwhile, Logan continued to provoke the guard to fight him. Until finally, the guard accepted Logan's challenge with anger, and finally, they both faced each other, preparing to fight. Some guards who had been observing the confrontation between Logan and Dominan wondered if young Master Logan truly intended to fight Dominan, who was a knight. After all, facing young Master Ronnie alone, Logan could easily be defeated. They belittled Logan and bet that he wouldn't be easily defeated by Dominan in just 5 minutes. Logan, with his sharp hearing, overheard the guard's conversation, belittling him. "You seem quite relaxed, young master," Dominan said to Logan. "Please be careful not to hurt yourself." Logan just smiled slightly at Dominan's words, which seemed lacking in courage. Meanwhile, some servants of the McLean family who saw Logan about to fight Dominan felt worried. They feared for any harm that might befall young Master Logan and how it could affect them. Another guard from the McLean family stepped forward toward the battleground. He then shouted that the fight between Logan McLean and Sir Dominan would soon begin. He emphasized that only wooden swords should be used to avoid causing serious injury. For a moment, the guard pondered whether to continue the fight. But young Master Logan was stubborn and still wanted to proceed with the fight against Sir Dominan. Meanwhile, Sir Dominan, being a knight and a force user, could easily defeat others even with just a wooden sword. It seemed there was no other choice. And so, the fight began. Logan and Dominan began preparing to launch attacks to defeat each other. As expected, Sir Dominan used his force against Logan. Some guards who witnessed it worried about the potential harm to young Master Logan. They feared he might get injured by Dominan's attacks. Meanwhile, Logan continued to observe every move made by Dominan. He noticed that the knight was using force against him. However, Logan saw that Dominan seemed unfamiliar with using force as it appeared scattered everywhere. Logan tried to provoke Sir Dominan, making him angry. He insulted Dominan's lack of skill in controlling force. Dominan, hearing Logan's insult, began to be provoked. Despite no longer being young, he claimed he could still fight well. Dominan was one of the worst knights. That's why at the age of 40, he decided to retire. He was no longer part of the Knights Order due to his greatly diminished strength. And Logan knew about Sir Dominan's background, that he was less skilled in martial arts compared to other knights. Sir Dominan began attacking with ambition to defeat Logan. The fear of the servants grew as they saw Dominan angrily attacking young Master Logan. Dominan swung his sword upwards, aiming it at Logan's body with strong force. Seeing Dominan's sword movement, Logan prepared to block his attack with the mighty triple kill sword technique. With this technique, Dominan's sword strikes could easily be parried by Logan. Sir Dominan felt pain from the impact of Logan's sword technique, causing his sword to slip from his hand. Logan stood firmly before Sir Dominan, who appeared in pain. He then provoked Dominan to use his full ability to fight back. The guards, witnessing the fight, were surprised that Sir Dominan could be easily defeated in one strike by young Master Logan. Likewise, the servants didn't expect their young master to have made such progress in martial arts. Sir Dominan remained seated after receiving Logan's attack. Logan then called for the referee. One of the guards acting as the referee approached the battleground. After the referee approached, Logan said he wanted to give Sir Dominan another chance to fight him. The referee asked Dominan if he was still capable of facing young Master Logan. Sir Dominon seemed still shocked by what had just happened. He felt weaker compared to young Master Logan, whom he had underestimated. He couldn't believe what had happened and quickly got up to attack Logan. Logan, who had been ready to face his attack, swiftly launched a sword strike at Dominon's body. Sir Dominon was thrown back by Logan's powerful sword strike. Logan looked at the fallen Dominon. He hadn't expected Sir Dominon's strength to be so weak and easily defeated by him. Meanwhile, Sir Dominon held his mouth in pain from Logan's sword blow. He acknowledged his defeat to young Master Logan. However, Logan once again struck Dominon, causing him more pain. Logan felt satisfied for punishing the family guard who dared to oppose his authority. He swung his sword again and struck Dominon, who seemed unable to fight back. The frightened servants watched as young Master Logan repeatedly struck Sir Dominon. Meanwhile, the guards who witnessed Sir Dominon's defeat by Logan didn't expect young Master Logan to possess both force and excellent sword techniques. He seemed like a sword master who had trained for decades. Logan gazed at Sir Dominon, who lay on the ground after being repeatedly struck. Finally, the referee decided that Logan McClane was the winner. A few minutes later, Logan was in his father's room. His father praised him for his awakening. He asked what had happened during Logan's training that allowed him to quickly master force and sword techniques. Logan hadn't expected his father to have watched his fight with Sir Dominon. Logan answered his father's question, saying he had only trained to rid himself of all his desires until he felt the force within him. Logan thought he seemed to be lying a little to his father. However, that's what he felt when he gained that power in his previous life. He became a force user after giving up everything to avenge his family. He awakened when he was nearly 40 years old. "You've indeed changed," his father suddenly said. "But after realizing that power, do you justify your first fight by attacking a knight?" Logan reasoned that the knight deserved it because he had acted disrespectfully toward his master. "Haven't you heard the full story from the servants?" Logan asked his father. His father replied that he had heard it from the servants. However, did Logan have to act that way? Logan thought he had to because the knight had belittled him. Logan explained to his father that the knight's disrespectful behavior toward his master would affect others, causing the organization to malfunction. Logan's father understood Logan's reason and forgave him. But he advised Logan not to act alone without his father's permission next time. Logan was surprised to see his father forgiving him so easily. His father reiterated that Logan must act wisely, especially since he hadn't received an official rank yet. Logan understood his father's words and promised to remember them. Logan's father wanted to tell him something. Logan was curious about what his father wanted to tell him. His father said that Logan's fiancée, Rena, would visit soon. Logan was slightly surprised to hear the news. "She finally came," Logan said to himself. For him, Rena was a cash cow that would bring many benefits to his family. And that day arrived. Lady Rena Wolves, Logan's fiancée, visited the McClane family residence. The McClane family welcomed the arrival of Princess Rena. The servants who witnessed her arrival were amazed by the beauty of the princess, adorned in a luxurious gown. Likewise, the guards couldn't take their eyes off the princess, the fiancée of young Lord Logan. The princess greeted Lord McClane, who came to welcome her, and inquired about his well-being. Meanwhile, Lord McClane laughed happily at the arrival of the princess, now a beautiful young lady. The rest of the McClane family also seemed surprised by the transformation of Princess Rena into a stunning beauty. However, Logan's face didn't show much happiness at the arrival of the princess. She then mentioned that she would read a letter entrusted to her by the Count. Princess Rena began to read the letter slowly before the entire McClane family, and after 30 minutes, its contents shocked everyone in the room. The princess read aloud that due to unavoidable circumstances, Princess Rena's family requested to cancel the engagement with young Lord Logan. She returned the scroll to her attendants. Lord McClane, upon hearing the contents of the letter, fell silent, unable to believe what he had just heard. Logan could only ponder, not understanding why the Kieran Wolves family had to write such a lengthy letter when the crux of the matter was at the end. Logan tried to digest the insulting contents directed at their family by the Kieran Wolves. They disparaged his father, who had remained at the same rank of high-ranking knight for 20 years, and insulted Logan as the worst son of the McClane family. Therefore, they decided to sever ties with the McLean family. Logan's father, the patriarch of the McLean family, was furious at being humiliated by the Kieran Wolves for canceling their son's marriage without clear reasons. Princess Rena tried to calm Lord McLean, expressing gratitude for the beautiful memories she had while staying with the McLean family during her childhood. She reminisced about her time with young Lord Logan, but stated that she had to obey her father's decision. She had no other choice and had come to apologize to maintain good relations between their families. Everyone in the room listened silently to Princess Rena's explanation, while Logan could only swallow his emotions upon hearing the painful news. Marian Kairos, Logan's stepmother and the mother of young Lord Ronian, asked Princess Rena for the real reason behind her actions. She was Logan's stepmother and had long considered Logan a rival for the McLean family inheritance. However, in matters of family honor, she still sided with the McLean family, who had been humiliated by the Kieran Wolves. The princess apologized for not being able to disclose the real reason. She herself was not informed by her father. She was merely a young woman who had to obey her parents' orders and was not involved in important matters. "So, you came here to cancel the marriage without knowing the reason yourself?" Logan's stepmother asked again. Princess Rena couldn't answer and only stated that the Kieran Wolves would pay compensation of 3 million gold for canceling the marriage. Dwayne Filsner, the financial manager of the McLean family, was surprised to hear such a large sum of money. Logan, on the other hand, seemed to smile, as with that amount of money, he could pursue his plans. However, Lord McLean suddenly became angry and exclaimed, "How dare you humiliate our family?" Everyone in the room was shocked to hear Lord McLean's loud voice. Seeing the tense situation, Princess Rena's guard stepped forward to protect her. He was Rockfern, a knight from the Wolves family. He asked Lord Baron McLean to calm down and continue the conversation peacefully. Baron McLean looked at the knight and asked, "Are you also a high-ranking knight like me? It's a great achievement at your young age." Apparently, Lord McLean thought he should hurt the knight from the Wolves family in retaliation for humiliating his family. Knight Rockfern tried to calm Lord Baron McLean to prevent any unwanted incident. The princess then explained that they didn't intend to buy the honor of the McLean family. The money was merely an earnest expression to maintain friendship with the McLean family. Meanwhile, Baron McLean tried to think clearly despite his anger. He couldn't continue to press the emissary from the Wolves family, as it would tarnish his family's honor. He stated that the McLean family still respected guests who visited their home, even if they brought bad news. However, the McLean family did not accept the unilateral cancellation by the Wolves family. Instead, as compensation, they requested Princess Rena, the emissary from the Wolves family, to apologize directly to their son politely. They refused any compensation offered by the Wolves family. The guards, hearing Lord McLean's words, admired the wisdom of their master. However, Logan raised his hand to ask permission to speak to his father. He said that as someone directly affected by the cancelled marriage, he had one request. Logan apparently thought that they desperately needed the money offered by the Wolves family, so he had to accept it. That amount of money equaled 1 year's income for the McLean family. Meanwhile, almost half of their family's income came from his stepmother's efforts. They would go bankrupt without that money. So, what's the point of discussing honor? Logan told his father that he would accept the apology from the Wolves family. His father, upon hearing Logan's words, was shocked. He angrily asked Logan if he should take back his words. Logan, seeing his father's anger, was surprised and somewhat afraid. However, he had to get used to facing such auras to develop his courage. With a slow voice, Logan's father said that the McLean family wasn't that poor to sacrifice their family's honor for that money. However, Logan disagreed with his father. He knew that the McLean family had a debt of 3 million gold at the bank with significant monthly interest. Without assistance from the Kairos family, they would have run out of money by now. The McLean family was the largest beggar family in the kingdom. They were extremely poor at the moment. Logan actually wanted to express his thoughts to his father, but in such a formal meeting, he couldn't say such things. He had to keep them to himself. Logan merely stated that the 3 million gold offered by the Wolves family had nothing to do with the family's honor. But Lord McLean asked again, "So you want me to retract my refusal of the money offer from the Wolves family?" Logan then expressed his opinion that currently, the Wolves' family's status was higher than theirs. Furthermore, the Wolves were an Eastern family. Although they held power in the East, they were not a family they served. Logan thought that if the cancellation of the marriage ended only with an apology, rumors would spread that the McLean family was submissive to the Wolves' family. Princess Rena was surprised to hear Logan's words. She remarked that she didn't expect the McLean family to think rationally. Furthermore, the Wolves' family held the honor of the McLean family in high regard. You yourself came to unilaterally cancel the marriage. Then you talk about rationality. Do you really think like that? Logan replied to Princess Rena's words, and she remained silent upon hearing Logan's response. In a previous life, Logan trusted Rena, whom he thought was fond of him, so he felt sad to part ways due to unavoidable circumstances. But before that happened, he met Rena in her room. Rena thanked Logan for visiting her and expressed a desire to create one last memory with him. At that time, Logan was a foolish young lord. He decided to flee from his family for a woman. So, he met Rena to ask her to leave the family and live with him. However, Logan didn't anticipate Rena's actions at that moment. Rena threw a knife at Logan, which he easily blocked with his sword. Rena smirked at Logan. "Young Lord Logan, do you think someone like you is worthy of living with me?" Princess Rena suddenly said sarcastically. "You better come to your senses and leave here immediately." Meanwhile, Logan was shocked and couldn't understand Rena's sudden change of heart to such malice. Before Logan's astonishment could fade, Rena suddenly screamed while adjusting her dress. The guards from the Wolves' family, hearing her screams, immediately approached Princess Rena. Princess Rena claimed that Logan was trying to harm her. Since that day, he realized that he had been deceived all along. He felt foolish for making a mistake by visiting the Wolves' family's residence and didn't expect to be slandered by Princess Rena, the woman he liked. Eventually, the McLean family had to pay a considerable compensation. Now, Logan no longer trusted a woman. And this time, with the cancellation of the marriage, Logan was sure that the wicked woman must have had a nefarious plan for his family. Logan didn't want to be deceived by her for the second time. In the beginning, Logan thought he could change his family's reputation. He would demonstrate his personal changes gradually until eventually his family would also change. However, during yesterday's confrontation with Dominon, Logan realized that the guards turned a blind eye when they saw Dominon openly disrespecting him, and negative rumors spread when he left a train at that time. Logan was determined to change his family's reputation, but he needed recognition from people like them first. There were still 9 months left before the regional war. He thought he didn't need to worry about his reputation for now. Saving his family had to be his priority at the moment. Logan told Princess Rena that he would accept the compensation offered by the Wolves' family, regardless of his family's differing opinions. Upon hearing Logan's words, his father became angry because Logan dared to oppose his father's will. However, it seemed that Logan disregarded his angry father, and he said to Princess Rena, "I am no longer satisfied with fake apologies. If my family's honor can be replaced with a few meaningless apologies that vanish into thin air, then the value of my family's honor is equivalent to the lightness of those words." Princess Rena was surprised to hear Logan's words. She didn't expect Logan to speak like that. Finally, Princess Rena replied that she would obey Baron McLean's wishes as the patriarch of the McLean family. "What is your decision, Baron McLean?" Princess Rena tried to ask Lord McLean. Logan thought that Miss Rena spoke like that only to save her father's dignity. Logan was sure Miss Rena was surprised because she thought she had to pay 3 million gold. That was not a small amount of money. Baron McLean then said, "As a representative of the McLean family, I am satisfied with Princess Rena's sincere apology. However, the final decision will be up to Logan." Baron McLean glanced at Logan, who was beside him. Meanwhile, his stepmother tried to speak, but was ignored by Lord McLean. Princess Rena was still standing, waiting for Logan's decision. She looked at Logan with a curious gaze. Lord McLean said slowly to Logan, "You must think carefully. If you accept money as compensation for your disgrace, you will open the door to buying and selling honor in the future." Logan tried to think, but he couldn't give in under pressure. And finally, Logan decided to accept the compensation offered by the Wolves' family. His stepmother smiled upon hearing Logan's acceptance of the compensation, But not Princess Rena. She didn't expect her family to have to spend that much money. Meanwhile, Logan's father felt disappointed with the decision made by Logan. He thought his son had changed. However, Logan's change led to something worse. He regretted and felt guilty for not teaching Logan about the value of honor. Logan just looked down, witnessing his father's disappointment. However, he did all this for his family. And finally, the 3 million gold was in Logan's hands. He looked at the stack of gold coins while contemplating what his next move should be. He thought about depositing the money in the bank. Suddenly, Logan was startled by a voice from outside his room. He thought it was Rick, the head servant. He told Rick to enter his room. The person Logan thought was Rick entered Logan's room and saluted. Logan was surprised because it turned out to be not Rick, but Dwayne, the family's financial manager. He was the person most trusted by his father to manage the family's finances. Logan stared sharply at Dwayne. He tried to guess what the person was planning. Dwayne felt that he was facing the biggest challenge of his life right now. As the financial manager of the McLean family, he had been managing the family's dwindling finances. Meanwhile, there were many needs that needed to be met immediately. To cover the McLean family's financial shortfall, he had to ask for help from Baron McLean's in-laws. Actually, Dwayne couldn't stand working for this family, which was getting poorer. But now, he had the opportunity to live comfortably, at least for the next few years. And his opponent now was Logan, a foolish child who knew nothing. So, he thought Logan might share the 3 million gold with him. After giving his respects, Dwayne began to speak, saying that he only stopped by to greet young Master Logan because he had impressed him yesterday. Logan just smiled slightly and didn't respond to Dwayne's words. Dwayne then continued his plan to attract Logan's attention. He said that Logan was a figure who stood without surrendering even under pressure. He felt that Logan was the right person to inherit the McLean family. What nonsense is that? Suddenly Logan spoke in a brusque tone. Dwayne was slightly surprised to hear Logan's response, but he continued to try to persuade the young master. He said that the decision made by Logan made the McLean family breathe a sigh of relief in this difficult situation. Logan didn't understand. He asked, "Why would my family breathe a sigh of relief? Isn't this my money?" Dwayne laughed upon hearing Logan's words. Dwayne actually had anticipated this would happen. Logan would indeed use the money for his own purposes. But Dwayne tried to be patient with Logan. He remembered the past when he had to kneel and cry for help from Viscount Kairos. For him, humiliating himself was something he often did. And if this time he had to humble himself in front of Logan, he would do it to get the money. Logan didn't understand why Mr. Dwayne suddenly started crying. Was his family's financial situation that bad? Dwayne began to explain that the McLean family owed 3 million gold to the Cooper Bank, and the annual interest alone had reached 150,000 gold. "I already know." Suddenly Logan interrupted Dwayne's explanation. He didn't expect Logan to know that. "Isn't it harvest time now? You should be able to pay that interest now." Logan continued his words. Meanwhile, Dwayne was surprised that the young master, whom he thought was foolish, knew about the family's financial condition. Dwayne gave a reason that managing the McLean family's land required a considerable amount of money, while the family's financial situation was very thin at the moment. So he hoped Logan could provide financial assistance. Logan apologized because he couldn't help the family financially. Dwayne was surprised by Logan's rejection. He thought Logan would support Baron's family for Baron's family. Logan replied, "Indeed, that's true. But I will use this money for my family, not for current operational expenses. Whatever happens, I have to look far ahead." Dwayne looked furious with Logan's decision, considering him ignorant of the future. Logan tried to ask Dwayne about the family's finances. How far could his actions change the family's financial situation? Dwayne explained that if Logan provided financial assistance, then at least the family's financial condition could be easier for the next few years. And after that, what happens? We'll be in debt again, right? We don't have a flagship product to rely on for income. Isn't that right? Logan said to Dwayne, seemingly debunking the financial manager's argument. Logan continued his words. "This is a vicious circle, and I will try to break that vicious circle. So, I will use this money for my plans." Dwayne was surprised by Logan's answer. He didn't expect the rebellious child he knew to speak like that. Logan then made a small request to Mr. Dwayne. If he could do it, then Logan would provide some financial assistance to him. "What is it?" Mr. Dwayne asked Logan. Logan replied, "I want you to gather mercenaries." The story shifted. A few days later, Logan decided to leave home. Rick, the head servant, asked him where he was going. Logan simply answered that he was going to look for money. "But young master already has a lot of money, right?" Rick asked again. Logan replied that he needed more money. But Rick suspected that Baron would not allow him to leave. Logan knew that, so he left quietly. Logan left the main servant behind. He thought he would change his reputation outside. Fortunately for him, he was familiar with the outside world. Because when his family kicked him out of his life before, he often moved around. Rick was still trying to stop Logan. He even said that if Logan left, he would have to step over him first. Logan smiled slightly. He stepped over Rick towards the exit. He said that Rick didn't need to worry because he would write a letter to his father so that his father wouldn't blame Rick. "What do you want to write, young master?" Rick asked with a desperate tone, while Logan just smiled at seeing Rick looking defeated. Rick fell silent, until finally, he delivered the letter to Baron. The letter contained Logan's apology to his father for leaving without his father's permission. He did this to get some fresh air after the heartbreak of a failed marriage. His father looked angry after reading the letter from Logan.